All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's a few minutes early, but we're all here now. Just a reminder to everyone in the room that um, our meetings are not live streamed. However, all our meetings are recorded and will be posted on our website and the YouTube for YouTube for future reference after this meeting. So we ask when you're speaking that you use the microphone ahead of you, okay? And all you do is you push that button to talk and the red light will come on. And when you're done talking, you push it again and it'll go off. If you accidentally leave it on, I have the override. I can shut you off. So, but I think you'll learn that quickly. So, and that'll just ensure that we have the audio when we have the videos online. So
the audio is for taping meetings.
just you can use that microphone now.
The audio is for the taping of the meeting rather than to communicate with each other.
That's correct. Moving forward, introductions. I'm Mark Becker. I'm the CEO of the Township. I've been here for a long time. Our clerk is unable to attend tonight. She's sick, and so she's at home. And we'll get it right into it. We'll get into the introduction of our members. So first of all, I guess before we get into the membership, Florence Witherspoon's the clerk, like I said, mentioned earlier, and she's not here today. This is Kelly Thompson to my left, and she's our deputy clerk communications coordinator. So she's looking after clerking the meeting tonight, as well as making sure that the video is also uploaded on our website. So the appointment of the members to this committee, council went ahead and we went through the whole process of appointing those that are here from the public, the 4 members here, and also 3 members from council. So first of all, I'm going to introduce each individually. And when I ask for the members of council in this committee, just if they can elaborate a bit and do some introduction and what their goals for this committee. And I'm going to start with Councillor Anita Snoblin.
Thanks, Mark. And Anita Snoblin, counselor on ACW. I was first elected in 2018, I think. So coming up the end of my second term. And this property standards bylaw has come up before, and we as a council looked at how to go about reviewing this, and we counted on a previous format that we used for short-term rentals. So my goal is on this committee to ensure that we provide a fair and equitable solution to appease everyone in ACW in terms of the short-term rent, or in terms of the property standards bylaw, and how it can be effectively updated.
Thank you very much, Anita. Next is Curtis Blake, Councillor Curtis Blake.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, as Mark said, my name is Curtis Blake. I've been a councillor. This is my first term. 2022, I believe, was the election. With this working group regarding the agriculture property standards, I am just hoping to find some common ground through a few different avenues. I'm particularly interested in the public consultation process and receiving some public input on the topic and bringing that back to council for a discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. And the last council member that's appointed is Councillor Wayne Forster.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Mark. I'm actually, I believe I was elected in 14, so this is my 3rd term. I'm on this committee because I'm a farmer and concerned that we don't get rooked over here in the process. So that's why I'm here. Thanks.
And to my right is Mayor Glenn McNeil. The mayor is an ex officio member of any kind of committees, so he automatically holds a seat on any committee because of his office and granting him rights to participate. So perhaps Mayor Glenn has some comments.
Okay, thank you, Mark, and to everyone, welcome. We're certainly happy that you've put your names forward to be part of this committee. The task will not be easy. However, we want it to be fair to everyone in our municipality. And we've had expressions of concern on the property standards, and we felt the best way to go about it was to have a committee like this to look at it and make it fair and equitable to everyone. And that includes everyone in our municipality, regardless of their business. So welcome and thank you very much for putting your name forward for this.
Thank you, Glenn. The next item will the appointed members. The council, like I said earlier, appointed 4 members from the folks at large and from the public. So if we can, when I call upon your name, is if you can introduce yourself and elaborate a bit about the goals and why you're on this working group. And I go to first to Lynn Harris.
Thanks, Mark. So my name is Lynn Harris. I am a resident of ACW, long family history here. And I'm a retired social worker. I've sat on many, many committees and boards in the county for the past 30-ish years. So I guess what I bring to this committee is experience working in planning and board governance. And I had someone reach out to me to say, hey, why don't you apply to be on this committee? And it was, I think, the last day of submission. So I thought, why not? I think I can contribute at least from my board and committee experience. I admit I'm a bit of a blank slate with respect to the issue. I'm not personally affected by it in any way at the moment. But I think just given my experience, I probably can contribute. So I'm happy to sit on the committee.
Thank you, Lynn. And now I go to Doug Fines.
I'm Doug Fines. I've lived in Port Albert since the 80s. And then we moved into Century Heights in town. And in 1997, I was on the council for 9 years when they amalgamated together and got beaten out by some residents on the cottagers, I think. But I lost by 4 votes after 9 years, and I was sad. And I just thought this was another little chance to contribute to the community. I own a business in town, a couple of businesses in town, and we have a lot of customers out here in the area. So I have quite a commitment to this region.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Doug. Yeah. Next item, I'm going to call upon Dan Hayden.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dan Hayden. Live near Port Albert. Lived there my entire life. We farm there, family farm. I guess technically I'm 5th generation there, so my kids will be the 6th. And I feel the privilege to be on this committee. And I work with a lot of older farmers, a lot of younger farmers throughout the community. And yeah, it's a pretty controversial topic. So I'm pretty excited to be part of the committee, and I hope it works out.
Thank you, Dan. And Chris McClennan.
I'm Chris McClennan. I'm a resident of the township. My family goes back a long way too, and I've kind of an issue that's always been with me, the property standards. It's been tried a couple of times before, and I was asked by a lot of neighbors and farmers after doing kind of a survey if I would come and speak to make sure that if it does, whatever happens, kind of goes ahead, that they're informed about it, and that they have a say in what happens.
Thank you very much. The next item, we go on to our agendas that everyone has ahead of you. 1.2 is the election of the chairperson. So what we do is we go through the nominations. I'll call for nominations 3 times. We don't necessarily have to have nominations for all 3 nominations, but at least if we get one, and we'll elect the chairperson, and after that we'll do the vice chairperson. So as I said, I'm going to call first and second and third time. So this is my first time to call for nominations from the floor for the chairperson of the Agriculture Property Standards Working Group. Go ahead, Wayne.
I nominate Curtis Blake.
Do I have a seconder for nomination of Curtis Blake? Chris? Moved by Wayne Forrester, second by Chris McClennan, that Curtis Blake be nominated for the position of chairperson for the Agriculture Property Standards Working Group. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. I'm calling the second time in nominations from the floor for chairperson of the Agriculture Property Standards Working Group. Seeing none, this will be the third and final time for calling for nominations from the floor for chairperson. Seeing none, thank you very much. Do I have a motion to close the nominations?
I'll make that.
Moved by Glenn. Seconded by Anita. Moved by Glenn McNeil, second by Anita Snowbland, that the nominations be closed for the chairperson for the Agriculture Property Standards Working Group. All those in favor? All those, anyone opposed? Carried. Thank you. The next one is Curtis Blake. We need a mover and a seconder to that Curtis Blake be appointed as the chairperson of the Agriculture Property Standards Working Group. Do I have a mover?
Can I?
Doug Fines. Do I seconder? Wayne Forster. Moved by Doug Fine, second by Wayne Forster, that Curtis Blake be appointed as the chairperson for the Agriculture Property Standards Working Group. Any discussion? Curtis, you'll accept the appointment?
I will.
You heard it, everyone. He said he will, so that's good news. So all those in favor? Thank you very much. Cat's carried. The next part of our agenda is 1.3, and that's the election of the vice chairperson. And the vice chairperson will just take the lead of the chairperson in the absence of them. So again, same kind of process, first, second, and third call, and we'll appoint them. So I'm going to call for the first time for a nomination of a vice chairperson. Go ahead, Glenn.
I'll nominate Wayne Forster.
Do I have a seconder? Curtis? Moved by Glenn McNeil, second by Curtis Blake, that Wayne Forster be nominated for the position of vice chairperson for the Agriculture Property Standards Working Group. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. I'm going to call nominations from the floor for the second time for vice chairperson for the Agriculture Property Standards Working Group. Any further nominations? I'm going to call for nomination from the floor for the third and final time for this vice chairperson. Third time? Hearing none. Could I have a mover and a seconder to close the nominations for vice chairperson? Moved by Anita, seconded by Curtis. Moved by Anita Snowball and seconded by Curtis Blake, that the nominations be closed for the vice chairperson for the Agriculture Property Standards Working Group. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Now I need a motion to appoint Wayne Forster as the vice chairperson. Do I have a mover? Curtis Blake. Do I have a seconder? Anita Snowblin. Moved by Curtis Blake, second by Anita Snowblin, that Wayne Forster be appointed as the vice chairperson for the Agriculture Property Standards Working Group. Wayne, will you accept that?
Sure.
Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, everyone. That went very smooth. So thank you very much. And I would ask that the chairperson, Curtis Blake, take a seat here just so he can be in the middle of everything. So to run the meeting between myself and the recording clerk. And we'll move forward with the meeting. Thank you very much, Curtis. And you'll just start off at section 2.
All right, thank you, everyone. I'm going to call for any disclosures of pecuniary interests regarding the working group and the topics at hand. Seeing none. We obviously don't have any previous minutes to adopt, so moving on to section 4, we have 2 correspondences. Item 4.1 and 4.2, a letter from Wayne Codwell, 4.1, and 4.2 being a letter from George Dark, both of which correspondence to the ACW property standards. I'll open that up for any questions or discussion regarding either of those. I'll just give members a minute to find it if yes, Doug?
There's quite a list of letters underneath George Dark's name. I don't know what they stand for, mean. Do
Yeah,
we
Mark?
have any definition of what those letters?
I don't either, but I know he's I know he's going to be watching this video and he's going to call me out on it. He's I think it's designer with and he's a designer, I think, but I don't know what any of those mean. Sorry.
Oh,
No,
honors degree?
it very well could be. Sorry, I don't know that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, Lynn?
So just reviewing these letters, Mr. Dark is obviously a resident. What is Mr. Caldwell's like, I guess, where does his letter stem from? Is he a resident of ACW?
Yeah, I'll pass it over to Mark if he has some background information on that for us.
Okay.
Yep, no problem. George Dark, I'm going to just give you a little information on him, just because I know these folks, and so I'm going to give you George. George lives in Toronto, but he has a cottage along Lake Huron in ACW. And Wayne Cobble, I know Glenn McNeil, Mayor Glenn knows him very well, so maybe he can shed some light on his background. I know Wayne himself, but Glenn knows him probably better than I do.
Yes, go ahead, Glenn.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair. Wayne was a former planning manager for Huron County. He is a professor at the University of Guelph, and he is quite inept with planning. And he lives actually at Nile with his wife, Deb. And Wayne is tremendously intelligent, well-spoken, and as cited in his letter, he comments about the FFPPA, which is very important. I think we'll all become familiar with that and how that protects farmers, I will suggest, in this conversation. And he's tremendously intelligent, well-intentioned, and very fair and honest. Thank you.
Do you have any further questions, Lynn, or does that kind of clarify what you're looking for? All right. Just looking around anyone else, if they have anything else they want to pull from the letters or notice was given.
Is the FFPPA, is that a big document? Is there an executive summary of it or that we could read?
Yes, I believe a bunch of it was put into the agenda package, but I'll pass it over to Mark again if he has any information for you on that.
It is in your background. If you look at section 5.2, it's the fact sheet and it's provided from OMAFRA and it's called the Farming and Food Protection Act and it's FFPPA.
Just while people review that, if they weren't up to date on that, is there any other questions or comments regarding those letters? Doug, did you have further questions on that, or?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. We'll need a motion to adopt the correspondence, or is that just for information?
Just for information.
Okay. So moving on to section 5, specifically 5.1, the procedural matters regarding the working group. The report has been provided to us by the clerk Florence, and it's for our information, but if anyone has any questions or wants clarification on any points of that, now would be the time to do so. Looking around the room, I'm not seeing any hands up. Yes, Glenn?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and I think it would be prudent to say that with our current bylaw, it makes it is not equitable across the municipality as far as all residents. Some are basically exempt from the bylaw because of some of the farming. Mark, help me with the wording. Not zone. Well, I guess it would be zoning. Is that correct? Like AG1 to AG4 or whatever? Is that? Could you expand on that, please?
Right. I'm just gonna call to order, like, we're still at 5-1. We haven't got that far. We're just working on the procedural matters and the
Okay.
terms of reference. I hate to cut you short,
Yeah.
but we can get back to your thoughts later.
Yep.
If that's okay with you, Chairperson?
Thank you.
Yes, it is for sure. So yeah, back to 5.1 with the procedural matters. As I said before, if there was any questions or any points for clarification, yes, Anita?
Yeah, I think it was mentioned in a few places, I'll direct it to Mark maybe, about delegations and that the committee could ask for delegations to come forward. Is there any, desire on staff's part to bring delegations in, or if the committee decides to ask for a delegation, how would that go about?
Absolutely. We can have a delegation and we look to the committee as a whole if they have any ideas who they like to bring forward, and we can reach out to those folks and have them here at a meeting at any time. So
So then, going forward then, so Doug mentioned the FFPPA. So I think there's a lot to be learned from that organization, that government organization. Where would we, where and when would we look to staff to see if there's a possibility to bring a delegation in to learn more about that? Or if that's a desire of this committee as well?
So if you look at section 5.3, and we'll get to that, and it's a good point to raise now, but we can also raise it at 5.3 as well. That if you want that, we can add that to the list of items because there's quite a few items that we're looking for from this committee to get this ball rolling. This committee works differently than council does, and I'm just going to maybe do a little side. With council, we talk about staff brings back recommendations. This committee staff doesn't bring back the recommendations. The recommendations come from the committee members themselves. So if they want something, they tell the staff what to do and we'll make it happen. So if you want that organization to attend, by all means, in section 3, we'll add that to the list of items to bring forward a future meeting, and we'll have the clerk reach out to this organization and make a presentation.
Yes,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
And while we're on that topic, there was also some written material too that spoke in terms of public consultation, open houses and things like that. Could you touch on that a little bit for the committee and how that looks going forward? Does it resemble how the short-term rental committee did with the open houses? And is it coming from the committee, or is staff already deciding on an open house at this point?
Yeah, we haven't made that determination yet, but we look to this group here of what they want to see, and we'll do it. What we did at the short-term rental seemed to work out well, but perhaps there's folks in this room here that attended that as well, or are quite aware how that was handled. But we haven't made those decisions yet, and those decisions will come from this committee. And we could add that on that list as well about open houses moving forward.
As a final point, to remind the committee, this committee, because I mentioned that it was sort of designed after the format of the short-term rental committee. And that committee had a mandate that went over the course of 12 months. This one has a mandate that goes over the course of 3 to 4 months. So that means we're going to be working pretty quickly on things. So that I would suggest needs, like, if there's something that the committee wants to see, or a delegation or an open house or public consultation or something, we're going to have to really work hard to expedite things. I don't know if you have any comments on that, Mark.
No, I think you're absolutely right. It is 4 months, but if it happens to be 5 months, that's fine as well.
So yeah, a lot of the points brought up are kind of further down the line in 5.3 when you get to that. But just back to 5.1, if there are no other questions with that, we'll take that for what it is for information. And moving on to 5.2, the background information. Oh, sorry, Mark.
Don't apologize. I just want to make sure that everyone's seen the terms of reference in there too. That was part of that 5.1 was the procedure matters, and the other part of it was the terms of reference as well.
Yes, that is correct. Both those items. I'm not seeing Anita. Yes.
Again, on the terms of reference, I know that many of the people in this committee have prior experience, but I think it's important to highlight conflict of interest. Mark, if you wouldn't mind mentioning something about that, if you could detail or outline what constitutes conflict of interest.
Yes, go ahead, Mark.
Conflict of interest. So I would think this pecuniary conflict of interest. So financially wise, if anyone in this room has, that's the pecuniary interest that you would have. So I don't know any examples to give to you right now that would have a conflict, but I think for those folks in the room that if you have any doubts, by all means, you can contact myself or Clerk Florence if you think you have a pecuniary interest. So.
Alrighty, if there are no other questions regarding 5.1, we are going to move on to 5.2. That's all the background information that was provided with regards to agriculture property standards in ACW and other legislation, both provincially and federally, I do believe. Again, this report was provided by Clerk Florence Witherspoon, and it's for our information, but if there are any questions regarding that package, now would be the time to ask. Yes, Anita?
I feel like I'm stealing a little bit of the floor here, but I guess just to sort of break the ice a little bit. So the background information, I know that there are a lot of people feel that the property standards review, bylaw review has come from a particular source. But I think this came up in a council meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, a few meetings ago. How many times has this come up in the past, say, 10 years? I've been on council for 2 terms, almost 8 years. I know that it's come up at least once and maybe twice since I've been here. Could you give a little bit of history on that?
Sure. I think I mentioned this at a council meeting as well. I think this might be the 3rd time we've considered this I've been here really 25 years this year. So this will be the 3rd time we've done it. But it's the first time we've created a working group, and I 100% promote the working group. I think it's wonderful to have folks from the public in here and adding their comments, and it means that if we do proceed with anything or if we don't proceed anything, at least it was well thought out and well planned and making sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's dotted.
Is that it, Anita? Yes. Dan?
Yes, I have just a bit of a question regarding how we got here today. How council decided they needed a working group, and specifically the question is how many official, like over the last 2 or 3 years, how many official complaints has there been from residents regarding agricultural properties? And second part of that question is specifically different properties. I know there's been a number of, I was looking at the letters that were submitted here. That one, for example, looks like there's been quite a bit of communication regarding one property. I'm assuming many complaints. But overall, how many properties have been complained about over the last 2 or 3 years? And I'm just curious, it must be a lot, I'm assuming, to need this working group today. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. That's definitely a fair question. And Mark might have the information behind that, but
I'll let you talk if you want to talk, but I can also address some of the matters too. You let me know.
go ahead.
I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking. Hopefully the next meeting I won't be talking at all. So I think the reason it's come back, it comes back every once in a while just to make sure. I know we do get complaints quite often on smaller properties, not so much the larger properties. And so we have AG 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm pulling on the top of my head. The AG 4s are the smaller parcels. So they might be 2 acres on a particular piece of property. It's got a small little shed on it and stuff like that. And there are a few of those around the municipality. Those are probably our problem areas. Folks with 100-acre farms and they got their machinery things, we don't get complaints on that. So I think you had 3 questions in there I pulled out of that. So I think the first question is it's more so the smaller properties that have problems with, not the larger ones. And I think we're bringing it back because we seem to continue to bring it back, we continue to get complaints on properties. And sometimes it doesn't hurt to bring things back to council to say, hey, we done this, we tried this before, are you interested? And if you aren't, fine. But if we are, maybe we should look at it further. And council agreed, let's look at it further and establish this working group because we had such good experience with the short-term rental. I think that answers your second question. And I think the third and final question is how many official complaints? I don't think we've tracked them. And I think the reason we haven't tracked them, I think we haven't had this agriculture part of it included in the property standards bylaw since forever. So I think folks have understood that they've learned from past that, well, there's no sense laying a complaint because agriculture isn't affected by the property standards. So you don't get a true picture of where we're at because they're exempt. So we can't give you those exact numbers. So, but I know there have been, and I'm going to say it one more time, and more on the smaller parcels rather than the large farm parcels. So does that answer your question, Dan?
Yes. Where I was going with the question was if it was really only a handful of properties, I just feel like it's unfortunate that those couldn't be handled without enforcing a new bylaw over the entire municipality. So that's where I was going with the question. So yeah, it gives me some background. So that satisfies my question for now.
So just to follow up with that comment, like we can't make specific rules for just a few little properties that we have trouble with. You have to have some background or a bylaw to support that. So we just can't pick and choose who we want to enforce to. So
Yeah, I fully agree with that. So, but I was just kind of getting some background on how we got here. Thank you.
no problem. Thanks.
Yes, Wayne?
Okay, thanks, Curtis. I was actually appalled when I was reading this. I had no idea that, say, you had an old truck sitting there with no plates on it. So you could technically, somebody could complain about that and I could get fined. Is that how that, even in, I'm AG1.
I maybe you could reference for you.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just,
But I read that somewhere.
now
An unplated vehicle is not,
a derelict vehicle.
huh?
A derelict vehicle.
Unplated.
Unplated. So that's unplated. So it's not usable. So you jumped. You said a word, and now I lost my thought. But you said charged or fined.
No, somebody complained
right?
and the bylaw officer come to my place that I'm breaking the law, correct?
So the bylaw enforcement doesn't come in heavy-handed. The bylaw enforcement officer will say, "Hi, Wayne, we received a complaint on your property. You have 18 derelict vehicles, unlicensed vehicles, and that contradicts the bylaw or the property standards bylaw, whichever bylaw there is, because it could be included in both or both or one of them." And he would do the investigation. He'll give you so many days to have that cleaned up. He doesn't come in heavy-handed. There's none of that stuff.
All right.
We try to work with the landowner and have it cleaned up. However, there's times where things don't always occur how we want to, and then we come in and have it cleaned up if they won't clean it up themselves. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay. But that, I didn't have no idea that even like you're supposed to have your fences in good state of repair. There's lots of fences out there that aren't anymore, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you've seen the fence thing, but
I saw it in there too, so.
okay.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Chris?
Is this like the property standards that's listed in here, is this the one that council's leaning towards for generally everything in the township?
Yes, go ahead, Mark.
So the property standards ahead of us that we have in this package, that is our property standards.
That you have now?
It is not the role of this group to reinvent that bylaw.
I get that.
Today's purpose, and I wrote this down, not today's purpose, but the committee's purpose is to, I had it wrote down somewhere, but it's in my head. We need to determine, A, are we going to include the agriculture zones into the property standards? B, are we going to incorporate some of the zones of the agriculture areas? So maybe just pick AG4, AG3 or 3. Or are we leaving the status quo and keeping it out? So we don't need to reinvent the wheel to redo the whole entire bylaw. There may be certain things in there that you may or may not like that might not fit into the agriculture zone lands, that we can go through that and pull them out and maybe make those changes as well at the same time.
Quite a few, because like Wayne said, the one about the fences, all fences shall be reasonably uniform in height and appearance, maintained in a state of good repair. Well, there's a lot of farms around don't have fences in that condition. And the same with the motor vehicle storage. No motor vehicle other than a motor vehicle bearing a valid license plate sticker issued by the Ministry of Transportation capable of being driven shall be parked other than in a building unless the parking of the unlicensed or inoperative motor vehicle is a permitted use under a zoning bylaw. So like things like that,
Right, and if there are things like that, we can look at them. And this bylaw is probably more zoomed for
residential.
so like when you talk about the fence, that comes to my mind, a fence in an urban development, an area like that.
But if it's included in a new bylaw for agriculture, it could be enforced that way.
That's right. So maybe we need to go through that, maybe pull some of those out that the committee feels it doesn't make sense, and maybe we just need to reword the bylaw or accommodate it accordingly, or put an exemption in there for whatever for agriculture or things like that. So, but I think the base of the bylaw itself is good. There just need maybe some changes to it. So
Was that satisfied you, Chris, with your questions?
No.
Okay. Lynn, I did see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I think Mark said sort of what I was going to say. I don't think it's the role of this group to change the bylaw. The bylaw exists. It's the role of the group to gather the information, get feedback from the community, and provide a report to council. And then it's up to council to decide whether or not there's going to be changes or edits to the bylaw. It's not this group's responsibility. And, you know, I think it was in Mr. Caldwell's correspondence where he encouraged us to rely on other municipalities. So when you refer to not reinventing the wheel, I mean, creating a new document seems like a lot of work when it already probably exists. So, yeah, so that all of that information is in the agenda package.
Yes, you're exactly right, and that's exactly what this committee we should be working towards. Mark?
yeah, just to follow up with Lynn and Chris at the same time, this committee here will recommend to council the bylaw, and if it happens to include some ag or include none, that's this committee's recommendation to council. And like Chris, when you talked about making some change to the existing bylaw, if there are changes that we need to, is this committee here will set a list of all the changes that they see fit to the existing bylaw, if they do incorporate the agriculture zones. Understood? Is you good with that, Chris? Okay, good, thanks.
So sticking with item 5.2 before we move forward, we've been given the background information. We've hit on a few points, but most of which I'm seeing is kind of following down to 5.3, item 5.3. So if we are fine to accept the information that we have regarding the background information, we'll move on from that. Mark?
So just one more comment, like under 5.3, the information, it's Florence's report, also the property standards bylaw, like everyone already seen, and the fact sheet from WMAFR, which everyone's seen, and then the zoning regulations, I think AG 1, 2, 3, and 4, if I think. So that's all in your package as well, in case you missed it, but AG 1, 3, and 4. So thank you. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. And if that's the case, we'll move on to 5.3, and that's the time that we come up with items that and direction for staff for our next meeting. Things that we want to either discuss, work towards, try to plan for regarding, say, public consultation, items like that. And I'm going to open it up to all the members of the committee to start chiming in, and we can get some type of list gathered up for staff that we can work towards for the next meeting. Any members wish to? Dan, yes?
I'd be interested in learning more about some what other nearby municipalities are doing regarding, you know, agriculture property bylaws. I don't know if that you guys could track that information down easier than I could probably.
Yes, go ahead, Mark.
Are you interested in ones with including the agriculture or the ones without?
Ones with, so we could understand, you know, what went wrong, what went right, that type of thing, and examples of how they worded specific things, maybe.
We can do that. Thank you.
Any other members of the committee wish to bring some items forward? Yes, Anita?
Although we were provided a fact sheet on the FFPPA, I don't know if there's any more information that can be brought forward on that, or somebody from that office that might be able to zoom in that in the meeting that we can ask questions on and find out a little bit more information on how that board operates. I did do a little bit of research on my own on that, and it seems sort of like a tribunal kind of thing, but it might be of interest to folks on this committee to find out exactly what the purpose and the role of that government organization is.
Yeah, that's great. And then for my own self as well, I would love to be able to, if possible, discuss with someone from that group and be able to ask them questions and see how, like you said, like a tribunal of sorts is made up, and how is it, what kind of people are involved in that tribunal? Is it, you know, picks from public, or is it government officials? What is it needed?
I did look that up, and it appears that from what I see, everybody on that board has a farming background and oftentimes has some kind of association background in terms of like a dairy association or an agricultural association that they've belonged to, that have been very involved with, and or municipal experience as well. So I did a little bit of research on it, and I was quite impressed with the people that are on that board.
Well, it's definitely good to know. And so just to clarify, for staff to look for someone from that board to potentially either come to council or via Zoom or some type of online link to be open
Yeah.
to some questions and maybe a presentation for us.
That would be nice. I did see where that organization is under the umbrella of the Minister of Agriculture. So that probably would be the place to start. And then it is listed with the board members. If it were me looking it up, I'd probably look to the board chair and see if there's a possibility that that board chair could maybe zoom in on a meeting. One other thing I did notice too, I could stand to be corrected on it, but it seemed like sort of a tribunal situation. And so if, for example, it went to the FPPA, a situation in ACW, they wouldn't necessarily find a board member that represents this area. It would be somebody that would be non-biased from a different area that would be looking at that complaint or whatever. Yeah.
So staff, we're okay with reaching out and seeing what we can do regards to this?
Absolutely. We can reach out to them and see if they would attend in person or via Zoom and go from there. And then you can answer your questions and go from there. We can do that.
Yeah, I definitely think that would be a great place to get the ball rolling on some things. And as any other committee members, do they have Lynn?
So just with referring to Mr. Dark's letter to council from December, so that there's obviously a very specific issue going on in that community. So could council staff pull together any history related to that, where that might be formal complaints made, other residents writing letters, so we could get to understand that specific issue a little more? And then also, have there been other complaints or other issues that have existed within the township in the last few years, unrelated to that one, that we could learn more about? So what are the current issues? What have residents complained about recently that would result in this group being formed? So we have the information on the issue that Mr. Dark has brought forward, but I would like to know sort of what's the history, what is actually going on? Has there been a response from the property owner that he's making a complaint about? What actions if any, has the township made to try to mediate or mitigate that situation? And then what are other situations that currently exist or have existed in the past, and how has the township provided any kind of resolution to that?
I will pass it over to Mark in a second. I know with the issue, the Dark issue, George Dark's issue regarding a property, it's kind of a unique situation. I understand not everybody's familiar with it. So I'm just going to pass it over to Mark, because procedurally, to find a way to bring some of this information out, I'd like to hear from him.
I'd rather not focus on one particular property. I think we need to focus this as a whole. Okay. We can bring back, and I don't know what information is available, but we can bring back what kind of complaints are being received. I'd rather not focus on one property and just do as a whole. So we can, I don't know if we've been tracking them because they are not in our existing bylaw. So that's why people aren't complaining, but perhaps there's something, and I don't know what the answer is, but staff can talk about it after tonight's meeting. Try to pull out what people are complaining about generally throughout the entire townships, which may include the site specific for Mr. Dark, but generally, because I don't want to focus on one property and move forward, so we can and look at other related current issues that we have with agriculture properties and what they are and things like that, whether it's a derelict vehicle or just a messy yard. And you referred to how we've mediated the process. We have no tools in our toolbox to mediate the process because it's not included in the bylaws, so there's nothing to mediate. And that's a problem we have as staff, because you can't. You know, people complain, but we say, sorry, it's not included in the bylaw. Well, what can you do? Well, we really can't do anything unless there is a bylaw. Does that answer your question, Lynn?
Sort of.
Okay.
I'm not suggesting we focus on that one, but that's the letter that we received, right? As this group, we didn't receive any other letters or any other correspondence or any other information regarding any other issues that are existing currently. So I'm not suggesting we focus on that, but that's what's in front of us today. And what are the limitations then from the township with respect to this? Obviously, this community is struggling with this issue. So it would be really helpful to understand what is the responsibility of the township with respect to a complaint like this or any other complaints where residents are obviously very unhappy with what's happening. There's a lot of conflict. You know, who has jurisdiction over enforcement, you know, making sure laws are followed, that kind of thing. So obviously the township doesn't have any enforcement officers that go out and remedy the situation at hand. I'm sure it's left to the OPP, but I guess that's kind of like understanding there's a complaint, people are unhappy. There's an enormous amount of conflict going on. So where does the township fit in, and what tools does the township have to, you know, attempt any kind of mediation or resolution to that? So that would be helpful for me, because I don't understand always sort of the processes that need to be followed by just different jurisdictions that might be involved. So, yeah. That's
Yeah,
it.
and I agree with both sides saying that we shouldn't focus on one property, but also needing to know the history of the situation so you can have an understanding of the issues going on, right? So I see both sides of that. I know Mark wants to chime in as well.
So just to follow up on one comment I heard you say make about OPP. So OPP don't enforce municipal bylaws, the municipalities. So our existing property standards bylaw, if we have a complaint about it, we do send the bylaw enforcement officer out. We do have a bylaw enforcement, and they do the investigation and they do all that. We want to stop OPP from going out to some properties. I know there's probably a few in the municipality that they go out to, but we're hopeful that in your request that I have here, I put in our notes that we can try to accommodate, and I'll talk to the clerk tomorrow about pulling out some of those things that, and even the bylaw enforcement officers, see what are the complaints we've been getting, what kind of complaints, and then we can take a look at it and how do we resolve them, and we resolve them by including them in the property standards bylaw, whether it's all the zones or part of the zones, and that's where we'll go from there. But we'll see what kind of data we can get, and we'll move forward. Is good with that, Lynn? Okay.
Yes, that sounds perfect. Thanks.
So we've gotten a few really good points down, but I want to continue with this. So Anita?
Well, because Mark mentioned the OPP, and as I mentioned a few times, the format of this committee is designed very similarly to the short-term rental committee. And it was important to bring up on the short-term rental committee that when someone puts in a complaint on a bylaw, and we'll just say it's a noise complaint or a fireworks complaint, and if the OPP has to come out, the township is charged for that. And part of the mandate of the short-term rental committee was that it's the residents of the whole municipality that are paying for that OPP to come out, as opposed to, you know, the lake shore where most of the short-term rentals are, where most of the complaints are for short-term rentals. So how fair is that, you know, people in West Wawanosh and Dungannon are having to pay for, you know, the problems that are associated with the lakeshore. And we look to find a way to, you know, recoup some of the costs of the OPP. So I guess my question to you, Mark, is that if there's a situation under a bylaw with the property standards and if the OPP are called out, does the township have to pay the OPP? Are we charged that similarly to the short-term rental? Or is that billed differently somehow?
We get a great big large review at the end of the year of what kind of calls they went to, and it's from 1 to 1,000 different kinds of things, and they just plug it into their system, and it goes from there. And then um, I don't have my OPP hat on right now, but it's capped at X amount per person, or is it per? And I can't remember. I don't have those numbers, but yes, at the end of the day, the municipality pays for service, but it's capped. The province caps it. We don't pay 100% of it, but the province pays some of it. But we pay like our estimate this year, I think, is just a little over $1 million just for OPP. So
I guess my point is that if there's anything that we can do to reduce the number of calls to the OPP is a good thing towards our financial bottom line with the municipality. Is that a fair statement?
yeah, I think you're right.
Do any other members have? Yes, Glenn?
Just, Mr. Chair, just for clarification, is it, and I'm looking at our CAO, is it correct or incorrect that the current property standard bylaw does the AG1, AG4 zoning is exempt from the current property standards bylaw? Is that correct or incorrect?
Yes, all those 3 zones that are in your package, AG1, AG3, and AG4 are exempt.
Right. And if I could just to follow up, and there's been an expression of desire from some residents that everyone be treated fairly or on the same playing field, that no one is exempt. And that's why if we want to go that way, we have to make sure that we use common sense as far as the FFPPA and its application to AG zoning. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. We have to look at treating everybody fairly, and it's a difficult situation we get put into because there's also unique situations in the area, and farmland as a whole is in a way unique. And but back to 5.3, if there's anything else that we would like to seek from staff going forward to our next meeting, any information, delegations, people we'd like to talk to, anything of those sorts. I'm not really seeing anyone come up with more things. Chris?
I'm just wondering how to get it out to the general public so that they can send in their opinions and that, whether newsletters should go out or something mailed to people, some way of getting people involved. I know the other day I talked at the coffee shop up in Amerley, and they all looked at me like they had no idea what I was talking about. So they're not computer savvy, a lot of those guys.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely a good point. I'm going to look to Mark to see what avenues we have to achieve that.
I'm glad I didn't lose my voice yet. The last item I had already wrote down because I figured it was coming, and Anita talked about it earlier about open houses, and what I'm hearing from you, Chris, kind of falls in line with community engagement. Is that what you're interested?
Yeah, like some of these guys I talk to, other than their mailbox or somebody phoning them, they have no idea how to go about it, finding out about meetings or anything like that.
Right. So we could, as staff, bring back something similar as we did to short-term rental, how we can give you suggestions, or the committee suggestions on how we would engage the public on this and what you want from the public, and we can move forward with, and then eventually an open house type of thing if you're looking at it. So we can do that as well. So
Yeah, I think that would be very important to gather some input and make notice to the public. And like Mark said, there'd be a few different avenues of going about that. Yeah, regarding open houses and notices in the mail, because like you said, Chris, there's a lot of people that don't stay up to date on Facebook and follow the agendas and follow the internet and everything like that. So, yes, Dan.
So I support like what Chris just asked there. Similar question. And we will figure out our next meeting here shortly. Is it a month from now? I think is what we're talking. And I guess where I go with the question, assuming it's a month from now, we need to, I don't know, soon as possible, get the message out to the community to hear it, get the feedback back. Um, because a month from now is February, and if we don't have feedback till March, it's April before we can make any decisions. And the majority of farmers that are actively in the fields and cropping, April and beyond, it's hard to get anyone's attention. So I'm saying, I guess, sooner the better on the public consultation. Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. Like a big group of people that this may affect, like you said, it's gonna become busy season for the rains. So, Mark.
Yeah, I agree. And I know it was a quick turnaround time. And again, if the committee feels that this can't be accomplished by spring, we have to maybe adjourn till fall. There's no urgency. I'm just saying this out loud because I'd rather the process be thought through great and we come back with whatever proposal, if we come back with a different proposal, rather than trying to push it through because we felt urgent. And if we have to delay, it's been 25 years without it now. So if we delayed another 6 months, it's not gonna. So I just want to reassure the committee, we aren't on your timelines, but we are on your timelines, but we're happy to bring back 4 different things. What I have here is consult with what other municipalities doing with ag areas that include ag, and that Dan had brought that up, and the open house, which Anita talked about, and also Chris talked about in community engagement. So that's 2. And number 3 is OMAFRA presentation with that FFPPA. We can reach out to them. And the 4th and final one was from Lynn about what are people getting, what are we getting complaints about, what kind of areas and what particular topics. Those are 4 that we have so far. That's just a recap.
Yeah, I was actually just about to ask for that. So that's great. You brought it all up so we know what's on the table right now. We don't want to overwhelm staff, but we also want the information at our disposal so we can, have good discussion and make decisions. Wayne?
Thanks, Curtis. So like, how are we going to inform the people? Like, used to just throw it in the paper, but not everybody gets that anymore. And Facebook, not everybody uses that. It's kind of a win-lose situation. And on Dan's, like, how many municipalities have farmland in that? Are you gonna look into that too?
Yes, it was my understanding that staff was going to look into the history
Oh,
of that.
well, who
neighboring
has it and who
municipalities,
doesn't?
Yes.
Our point today was to reach out to municipalities that have it.
Have it?
And how they deal with it. That's what we have because
Okay, and then
because we already know what it's like when we're not having it. So
Yeah.
we want to know what it looks like that it have included it. And you made one other comment I was gonna talk
like,
about.
how do you get the word out?
Oh, get the
there?
word out. Well, that'll come through when we bring back a staff report on how the open house and the community engagement works out. So we hopefully will have some suggestions there. Okay. And we do have a newsletter going out with the tax bills that are going out probably in the middle of February. And that way that gets to everyone's envelope because everyone gets tax bills. So that's something to keep in mind too. So, and we're already at January 8th already. And yeah, so we can make that change if the tax bills will go out to the middle of February. So if the committee agreed on something like that, there's also that. But again, my favorite expression sometimes in the office is let's just pump the brakes. If we have to pump the brakes, pump the brakes. And so be.
Yes, Glenn?
Mr. Chair, through you to Kelly, you're our communications person, Kelly. How do you find that the is effective vehicles to reach the residents in ACW?
Well, I feel you got to do it all. So you got to do the website, you do Facebook, you do the newsletter, handouts, flyers. It really is a mix between how people receive their information these days. So you pretty much have to do it all. So we did do the postcard for the survey back for the short-term rental, and that went out to everyone. And we did get valuable feedback from that and a great response. So I think maybe including something in the tax newsletter that gets physically mailed and in people's hands would be a good avenue to go.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. A survey of sorts in the newsletter. I think that would be great. Glenn, does that kind of feel?
Thank you for that.
Mark?
Yeah, just to follow up with Kelly, the point, and I lost what your point was. It was the one about we send out, what was it again? The postcard. That's an option, but Kelly will have that in our report when it comes back with the community engagement, because the postcard went to everyone. So we just sent a postcard to everyone. They sent it, they filled out the online survey. So that's one thing that definitely can get to the, because right now, how it used to be, I know when I was in council a long time ago with Doug Fines, when he was a young man, he he we used the newspapers. You don't use newspapers anymore because no one gets them, and we don't have that catchment area. But Kelly will come up with some ideas with open house communication, these postcards. So I think it'll be worthwhile to take a look at, and that'll open that door, how we get the word out there.
Yeah, I completely agree that there's lots of avenues that we can go down, and getting a report back from staff so we can see those avenues in front of us. That would be the best way to go about it. So, any other topics or ideas we want to put on the table for direction to staff? I think we've did a pretty good job of getting some ideas out there. So if that is, sorry, Glenn.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I think it's important that not only as a committee, however, to our residents, that we provide facts. There can be lots of misinformation and, concerns that may be valid, maybe not. And it's very, very important that we have facts presented to us and that we understand, and also that our residents understand the facts of the situation. Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree, because it doesn't take long for word of mouth to travel around and things get twisted around and become way off the beaten path of what's actually going on here. So, but yeah, back to 5.3. If there is nothing else, I believe staff is okay with the direction we've given them.
I'm good if I just read those four, and I think if that's a consensus of the committee, staff can work on those 4 reports.
Alrighty. Moving on to item 6, our next meeting. We're looking for a date and time, and how does staff want to go about putting this on the table? Are we looking for that? Somebody said a month, I believe. Are we looking at a month out?
I'm thinking if the committee wants to perhaps have it in the newsletter, we should probably meet within a month's time. Like we could meet the first week in February if you want. I just know there's some conferences coming up for some council members and things like that. So what's today? Today's Thursday, the 8th. So maybe we could meet the first week in February. I'm just suggesting, and then we'd also look to see of what time is the best time for everyone, whether 4:30 works or does it not work, and go from there.
So looking around at the committee members, tonight's meeting at 4:30, does that suit people? I know obviously it's not going to always work for everybody, but we try to find some middle ground that works for the most of us. So if 4:30 is a suitable time, we'll call that a time, and then to come up with a date. When does the newsletter go out with the tax bill? What week is that? We just want to give ourselves enough time if we want to include something in that.
I've always they're usually printed the second week in February, if I recall, but they usually go out the 3rd week, sometimes late as the 4th week in February, because they do the end of March. So I would think if we met on Thursday, February 5th rather, I think that would, because we know what we're doing, and we could put a blurb in the newsletter, and Kelly would make room for it, or move something around, or maybe she already has some room in there for that. Kelly, I don't think you shouldn't have a problem with that, do you? Okay. So I would recommend Thursday. That's 4 weeks from tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 weeks from tonight, February 5th. We just need to know what time suits everyone.
Yeah, I believe 4:30 is what we just talked about, and I didn't see any objections to that. But I see Lynn,
I'm not available. I'm away.
you're away on
Yeah.
the 5th, I guess it is. Okay,
Yeah, I would be available the week before.
in the last week of January. And I was honestly going to ask Mark that if we ended up meeting the first week of February, and the newsletters get printed off the second week, is that a little tight for time? Should we be looking at maybe the end of January?
We could do January 29th. Does that suit everyone? We can do it. I'm just might be mindful that we have 4 report. Well, inviting the OMAFR shouldn't be a big thing. The open house, Kelly's probably did that, a lot of that already with the short-term rentals. And the other thing is Florence would have to consult with the bylaw enforcement officer to kind of get a feel for what complaints we were getting. She could probably pull that up together. And the other thing was other municipalities. That might take a bit of time, but we can do our best to bring it all forward for the 29th, if that would suit everyone much better than the 5th.
Suits me better too.
Yes, but
I do have a conflict the 29th. Would it be possible for Tuesday, the 27th? Does that work?
making crunch down on staff.
Just 2 days.
No disrespect, Glenn, but as far as the committees here, I think that's good. Like your attendance here is an ex officio. I not saying that's not worthy, but I just, the 27th does not really work well for me.
Can I just mention, is it realistic that we would get through all the requested information and all within the next meeting? Like, do you know, that's a lot of information we're asking your staff to gather. Is it realistic that as a group, we're going to get through it all in one meeting? Do we want to prioritize perhaps if the group is looking at potentially putting some information into the newsletter with respect to the agenda for the next meeting, do we want to prioritize that? I'm just not sure we would get through all the other information that we've kind of brought up.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's a
That
bit ambitious, I guess.
there is an abundance of it, or there will be an abundance of it
Yeah.
for sure.
Right, because if we have a delegation from them, that could take,
A whole meeting.
yeah, so.
Yeah.
I think that delegation could probably be put off. My thoughts. It might be more, it might be more useful to have the comparisons to the municipalities and what types of complaints are coming in ahead of the FFPPA delegation. That would be where I sit on that.
I do partially agree with you, Anita, and I know the FFPPA and their act, they do a pretty good job. I've looked at it online as well. But if there were any questions and any facts that we wanted to pull out to include in a newsletter to have that presentation beforehand, I do see both sides of it though. But yeah, it is a bit of a crunch to get everything either into a meeting all done at once, and also if we wanted to get things onto the newsletter. Yes, Anita?
Now that you mentioned the newsletter, so what exactly do you want Kelly to put in the newsletter? It just that this meeting is this working group is meeting regularly, or are you going to announce that there will be certain people delegations coming forward and inviting people to come in? I guess I'd be curious to know what information you want in in that newsletter that goes out with the tax bills.
I could be wrong. I believe the information that's going to be on it or could be on it would be up to the committee to, I guess, refer it to council maybe for recommendation. But some facts about the working group, some facts about the protection, the FFPPA, and just awareness, I think. But Mark, if you had another point that you wanted to add to that.
I think the purpose of putting in the newsletter isn't to give them all the information that they need at the start. I think just to make them aware that we're talking about this. We're talking about this. This is going on. Keep your ears and eyes open. Stay tuned. Hopefully, when we come back with the suggestions, open house and engagement thing, I really love the postcard thing. I'm a strong believer of that, and maybe that would be a good item to put in there. Stay tuned for your postcard where it'll tell you everything that you need to know or want to know, or what comments we want. Not that it's going to go out in February, but the newsletter will kind of say, stay tuned. They could be coming out later in the year.
Yes, Anita?
I understand where you're going with that FFPPA, Curtis. If it were up to me, what I would suggest with, making that announcement in the newsletter that goes with the tax bills, I would just, as Mark said, make sure that people are aware that this committee is meeting on a regular basis with a link that goes to the YouTube channel that they can watch the meeting online. And I say that because, again, going back to the short-term rental, people at the public consultation and in letters that were sent to council members, it was often said in some of those letters that, well, you didn't talk about this. Well, you didn't talk about that. You didn't talk about this issue. Yeah, we did. Go back and look at the YouTube video. It was there. You just didn't happen to see it. So I think promoting, in my opinion, promoting that YouTube channel is the way to go.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Chris?
Just one thing too,
Turned it off.
if we get requests, once it's made aware to the public and the public knows about this, and if there's any requests from the public to have someone come and do a delegation with us, are we as a committee going to accept that? Are we going to allow other delegations to come in if other individuals have information for us?
Personally, I don't see why we wouldn't, but we'd have to cross that when it comes regarding the individual or the organization,
Yeah,
whatever it
'cause
might be, right?
I know one farmer had suggested he's really big in the landowners association. Well, he right away was, well, I've got information, from the landowners association. Maybe they would send a delegation. So I don't know. That's just where.
Yeah. Just to try to circle back to the date of the next meeting and try to get everybody on track for that. We've agreed, I believe, that 4:30 is a suitable time. It's just a matter of finding the date and what the staff can accumulate for our information in such a short time and try to get some notice and awareness out in that newsletter. So kind of looking back at the calendar again, it sounded like a few people, or at least one person, wasn't able to make the 5th of February work. And then the 29th of January, if that's doable with the majority of the people here, and also okay with the staff regarding some of the information that can come back.
If the committee is all that date suits, we will do our best to have it done. And if we don't have it all, we'll bring it up. It might be a big agenda. I forgot that if we have that presentation from the UMAFRA, I don't know whether the committee thinks we could put that off, or is it important to have that as on there as well? I don't know.
Yeah, after hearing people's thoughts, I think it would be fair to put it off from my own perspective.
Okay, so
I
we
see
can
a
put
few
that up.
heads nodding around there, so we can put that off and keep the other 3 items, I believe, to that agenda, and we'll plan on the 29th of January at 4:30 p.m. again, if that suits everyone. I don't have to make a motion for that or anything, do it? Or...
No, so we'll delay the FFPPA presentation for another meeting, but we
That's
don't
fine.
need a motion for that. We'll put that in the motion when we adjourn, and I'll look to Kelly to plug that in for that.
Yes, Glenn?
Mr. Chair, just for discussion, I'm thinking that how it is maybe important to have that presentation from FFPPA sooner than later, just so that we understand what protection that applies to agricultural properties. I think it would dispel a lot of, well, it would educate us, myself, as to what it protects, what it applies to, that sort of thing. So I think there'd be merit in having it sooner than later. That's just an option of discussion.
Yeah, and I do see that side of it as well, and I also see Anita's side too, that if we're trying to cram too much into an agenda, I guess I'm gonna look around the room and see what people are thinking. Wayne?
So like how long of a presentation is this? Like nobody seems to know, or like I'm with Glenn, like the more I know right off the bat, the better off I am. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
I think that would be really hard to gauge, right? Because if all of a sudden we get a train of questions going, say the presentation only takes 10 minutes and they lay out the facts in front of us, but then we have a line of questions, an hour goes by pretty quick when, there's a lot of dialogue back and forth and whatnot. Lynn, did you?
I was just gonna say, if we have the other information, like, what do other municipalities do? What are the current issues that exist now? I'm gonna have a lot more questions, probably. So the more information I have, then the more I will benefit from a presentation about the FFPPA. And I'm not sure how realistic it would be that someone would be able to attend a meeting in 3 weeks. Right? Like, it takes time for people to kind of schedule things, and I think that there will be a lot of questions. So I can't imagine that. I think if we plan for it and for the 3rd meeting or the 4th meeting, that would still give us lots of time.
Yeah, I do have to agree with you. And like I said, we can get a train of questions going and all of a sudden an hour gets eaten up pretty quick. With that being said though, oh, I lost my train of thought. If January 29th at 4:30 p.m. works for everybody, we can take the information that staff's going to bring back to us, pick out some things that we might want to include on the newsletter and tax bill, and get the ball rolling. And staff can definitely reach out in the meantime to FFPPA and their organization. And the other thing this is what I want to mention too. We do have, and their website is pretty good, that we do have the basic information of that Protection Act, and it answers not all, but most of our questions, I would think. So if we do our due diligence, and if myself's a little unsure about it, we can look into it further before the next meeting and try to, make ourselves as aware as possible about that act on our own time, and come into that meeting prepared. And then when the delegation does take place, and hopefully it's maybe on our third meeting or whatever, go from there. But yeah, if we plan on January 29th at 4:30 p.m. for the next meeting, if that works for everybody. And if there's nothing else, I guess, yes, Doug?
So I just wonder, is this an hour and a half normally? It's gonna be 2-hour meeting? What's practice for something like this?
That's kind of hard to say. I think it could individually differ between meetings, but Mark, you might sit on more of these than me. I'm not.
It all depends, Doug, how much you talk.
I've been pretty quiet.
No, and meetings can vary. Like we've had short-term rentals that were an hour. We have an hour. We've had 2.5 hours. It just all depends. So like right now, we're getting into an hour and a half almost now. So it all depends on what's on the agenda, what's the topics, and how much discussion there is.
Yeah, that's right. Glenn?
Yeah, can I just ask a question? Is there a virtual option to join these meetings?
I wouldn't be able to answer that. Kelly or Mark?
I would say yes. We allowed it for short-term rentals, so we allow for that as well.
Okay. No, thank you.
And so for those folks that can't attend, if you'd like to come virtually, that's an option as well. So
Yeah, that's definitely good to know.
just a note on that other
Mark.
FFPPA. Chances are, like Lynn said, they won't be able to accommodate it, but I'm even questioning whether they're going to be able to accommodate a 4:30 thing either as well, because sometimes when you have ministry staff, they're not that receptive to coming out. But we'll have the contact and we'll see what they say.
Yeah, that's fair. And then if staff has dialogue with them between now and the next meeting, and then we kind of know going into maybe our third meeting if we have to adjust our meeting time to suit them to get that delegation in.
I would agree with that.
It was
Still.
It's still on. I didn't turn it up. I'm available at 1:30 or 2:30, and I think looking around, most of the four of us have that flexibility. It doesn't have to be 4:30. Just throwing that out.
Yeah, so we have our next meeting set, January 29th, 4:30 p.m. And then, like Mark brought up, if the delegation with OMAF and FFPPA needs to differ in time, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. All right. So item 7 is adjournment, and I need a mover and a seconder for our adjournment. Moved by Wayne and seconded by Doug. Do we have to alter the motion?
I have that the agricultural. Read it. That the Agricultural Property Standards Working Group does now adjourn to meet again on January 29th, 2026 at 4:30 p.m. or at the call of the chair.
Okay. And all in favor of that motion? That passes through. And that's it for tonight. Thanks everybody for coming out, and thanks for everybody's input and discussion.